I've got no idea what the hell I'm talking about. But I might as well kick it off. You ever heard of the phrase, less is more? Sometimes that could be something as simple as a sandwich, a glass of water, and even things like a bed. Now, take those three items, and imagine the sandwich being made out of Wagyu A5 steak with the finest condiments you can think of. That glass of water is now a glass of Filico bottled water from Japan. On a side note, why are these things so fucking expensive? And the bed is now a Baldacchino Supreme. At first glance, it would be quite nice. A new experience, and something to note down in the memories of one's own mind. What would happen if the novelty of all that luxury wears off? At the end of the day, the Wagyu A5 is still just food, the Baldacchino is just a bed, and the Filico bottled water is just that, a bottle of water. What makes these things so special? Its exclusivity? Its price? Its rarity? Did you get it out of some mystical loot box put in by EA to spite you? Knowing EA, they would attempt to put loot boxes in their stuff in real life. Anyway, you get the idea. When you break something down to its basic components, it turns out to be not all that special. It has its base function, with a bunch of bells and whistles attached to it. It is, in all honesty, quite funny to think about. So why the fuck have we not learnt this with video games yet? I get the fact that with every new release, or with every new update, content drop, season, blah blah fucking blah. It's a good thing to spruce up a game, innovate on its previous iterations, or just build something on the foundations a previous game has. However, when you go overboard, when you innovate for the sake of innovating, and not on some baseline sense of logical progression, that's when you have a problem. It creates more problems than it solves, and it causes a game's enjoyability and quality to decrease massively, leading to massively over-bloated mechanical or graphical messes that aren't remotely fun or enjoyable. Unless a core fundamental mechanic of a game is randomization, like randomized seeds for roguelikes, or Minecraft. Minecraft runs a seed-based system. Then you really shouldn't be making random changes to a formula that is already proven to work. Biggest defenders I know, and I'll list them here. Apex Legends and its rank system, and how almost every season it's a constant toss-up on if you're getting ratted or you're aping constantly. Tekken 8 and its overabundance of homogenizing its characters into the same, haha, 50-50 stance, highlight mix-up, with cinematic cutscenes mid-fight to boot, and surprisingly, Marvel Rivals with its Season 2 as well. Turns out, a Season 2 is always disappointing. Like Arcane Season 2. Apex Legends has this big problem of just throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks, and thinking, yeah, this will work for this season's rank system, let's just throw it out there and see what happens. And almost every time it's a major change up in the system, it causes more problems than it fixes. Textbook example of this would be that rat fest known as Season 17, where all people would want to do is run and hide, not shoot, not fight, nothing. Meanwhile, the actual good players who dropped and wanted to fight got hit with negative points in the higher ranks, while the rats just sat there, did nothing, and got masters that season. It was so fucking bad that this dumbass, me, could get masters that season. But I couldn't sit there, mind-numbingly turning my brain off, probably browsing Reddit for 20 minutes each game, while waiting for everyone else to die off. At that point, I was more likely to sit on a prickly cactus with my bare ass than play that season out to its entirety. And I'll fucking die on that hill. Meanwhile, on the other side of the spectrum, Tekken 8 has the ever-affectionate problem of character identity assassination, and turning a game renowned for its 3D space fighting and making it into a 2D game with extra steps. Insane plus frame advantage, the heat system's entire existence, alongside with the insane amount of chip damage that some characters had, and the high-low 50-50 stance mix-ups that means if you die, because you guessed wrongly twice. While yes, it has been remediated with its Season 2 emergency patch, but the damage is already done. We're now at a stage where it feels like everyone is vanilla Tekken 5 levels of broken. And if you don't know what vanilla Tekken 5 levels of broken is, just look at Steve. Look at Steve from that game. And speaking of Steve, my poor boy. Season 2 inherently made him stronger, yes. However, the death of his identity as a character is something I personally don't like to see. He has a launch from neutral. Steve was never known to have a launch from neutral. The only way you were ever getting launches was with either tight execution barriers or fishing with back 1 and flicker 2. Oh, and don't get me started on how Peekaboo 2 immediately goes into Lionheart. Steve no longer has any nuance, it's just chain button into Lionheart, and oh, look at this, 50-50 guard break or a 50-50 mid that is a heat engager. Safe on block as well. and he's just constantly allowed to reset. It's just so sad. And because of the damage done from this update, the Tekken community has done something it never does. It went back to the older games, like Tekken 7, Tag 2, Tekken 6, and Tekken 5 DR, hoping that going back to something that they would deem to be better simply because they don't have heat. Spoiler alert, you still die in 2 interactions in all these games. The only difference is the fact you actually have defensive tools to counteract most of the stuff that the other guy would be throwing out. You can actually sidestep, you can actually backdash, you can actually whiff punish. But if you want to say that the older games were better, that's just simply not being truthful. Tekken Tag 2 had Touch of Death rage combos. Tekken 7 had the 2D characters. Tekken 6 had Bob and Lars, and Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection was just where everyone was busted in terms of frame data. You can wear the rose-tinted glasses all you want, but you can't deny a simple truth. These games were broken in their own ways, regardless of how you look at them with modern context. Nuance has been lost within the Tekken community due to the extreme backlash from the update itself. The emergency patch of the game certainly reduced the major fundamental problems with the update, but it's still a lot to be desired. It's a step in the right direction, but the Tekken team are on thin ice due to these things, and they no longer can make a mistake balance-wise. They need to think of things logically and progress from there. And finally, we have Marvel Rivals. My video on Marvel Rivals aged like fucking milk. I am upset about this, yes. To be honest, the game is still amazing to play. Its fundamentals as a hero shooter, and how the game plays itself isn't the problem. It's just with some of the changes from Season 2's rank system, and the community's reaction and possible rage bait, yeah, it's caused a lot of problems. Let's start off with the big one. Performance-based adjustments to the ranking system. Tanks and DPS, they don't have to worry about really feeling the changes. It's when you play support is when you really feel it. Because imagine this, you're fighting hard, you win the game, plus 13. You lose a game, minus 32. You have to win 2 games to even be able to remotely mitigate a single loss. Which means you have to be operating at a 60% win rate unless you are actively trying to be a DPS support, which it works. It does work, I just wouldn't recommend it. Maybe it's because all of the old Overwatch heads, but we are literally witnessing history repeat itself. Support players are once again under the hero shooter banner of being called boosted. Oh wow, how original. Problem being is, who made the comments in the first place about them being boosted, being stupid, all that jazz? Necros. I mean, to be fair, Necros is being sarcastic if you consider the context of the clip, but it's simply a trickle-down effect of someone with a large audience making inflammatory comments, even if it is rage bait, and a few other players taking this word as gospel. So what ends up occurring is when someone takes this word as gospel, you get the support strikes occurring nowadays, mainly on Reddit. Is it ego, or is it just a category of players fed up with abuse from players who don't give a single shit? Overwatch had this problem, now Rivals is having this problem. If you want my own opinion, it's petty as fuck. Being a flex player who mains 3 characters, Strange, Bucky, and Rocket, I understand what it's like from multiple angles. With the Insta-Lock DPS players, it's a case of hurt ego and frustration, and with support players, it's a case of getting sick of dealing with people who insult them over the smallest things. This isn't the first time either. Rocket got a bunch of shit from Tim, simply because Rocket didn't have an immortality ult during a meta where it was nothing but people spamming Cloak, Luna, Loki, Mantis, and Invisible Woman. Rocket's utility alone was enough to break some of this immortality with his own ultimate, self-peel of his dashes, and wall climbing. He was actually quite self-reliant. The problem is, immortality. It's less of a problem nowadays, but it really does, prove a point. Once again, this is my own opinion. Drop the ego and get over yourselves, because this is just the same cycle of problems repeating itself. It is the hero shooter way of life. People don't learn the first time these things happen, and they won't learn the second time. Maybe, if we go back and look at the history on these things, especially when it comes to modern hero shooters in general, we could prevent this. But I'll say it again. Drop the ego and get over yourselves. You can get frustrated, you can get angry at something, but don't direct that rage at other people openly. It's rich coming from me, considering when I get frustrated, I tend to rant and complain to myself. But here's the thing, I'm keeping it to myself. It isn't useful, and it only acts as a way to decrease morale for the point of the team. Not only that, it's fucking tilting. Listening to some man-child scream down the mic about how his teammates are not doing anything, meanwhile he's running it down like 20 and 15. Yeah, you got 20 kills, you died 15 times. Overwatch 1 has certainly returned to us in this aspect, only this time around, we've actually got experience with this stuff, and maybe we can prevent the catastrophic decisions that completely destroyed Overwatch 1 to be transformed to that pit of hellfire and trash can hellscape known as Overwatch 2. Where am I going with this? Specifically in Rivals terms? If history is repeating itself, then we'll end up with the same things that plagued Overwatch 1 for its entire life cycle. Role queue, priority queue, and all that shite. And in this case, Marvel Rivals is already pretty good as it is. I just think with a couple baffling balancing decisions and some rank changes that have really affected how certain roles of the game are played, I don't want 90% of these things from Overwatch 1's history in Marvel Rivals just off of principle alone. Anyway, I'm gonna cut the script here and quit my rambling, because now I'm starting to sound like I need to check into a mental asylum. I'm gonna go back to doing what I normally do, be it thinking of a new idea, recording some random shit and editing that together, or chilling in my Discord somewhere. Speaking of, links in the description. If you want to support me, do check out the Discord, check out my Twitch, check out my Ko-fi if you want to donate. You don't have to, it's just there. You don't have to, it's just there. And all in all, that'll be it from me. I'm gonna go crash out now over some stupid shit that doesn't happen. Been Azura, and I'm signing out. Bye!